of course, this has been done year in, year out, but I suppose the actual practice of people learning from all of this is actually not so much from literature or from what people tell them. They have to learn it from experience, unfortunately. So you have to go through many crises. You've got to lose tons of money before you then decide, hey, I've got to wise up and I've got to basically learn how to manage my wealth properly. So yes, we can put out a lot of information. I mean, I actually sit on the executive advisory board of the CFA Institute, where we meet twice a year around the world, and we sit down and we go through what we feel are pertinent investment areas, or should I say areas within the investment field. We call it the global body of knowledge that investors as well as investment professionals need to know. And I cannot tell you more that over the last 5 years, the variance in terms of what is important versus what is not. We put our members and I suppose the investing public through a lot of surveys, and we've noticed that what is important versus what is not important is moving a lot more these days than it was before. Before it was very simple, retirement, and as a result of that, these asset classes are important. And let's not forget, the last 5 years, we have gone through, from a financial market perspective, significant amount of volatility. And this is, of course, due to the fact that there's also been a lot, or should I say a significant amount of liquidity that has come into the system. So all asset classes are starting to behave similar already. It's just that the timing of when they go up or go down is different. But as a result of that, you start seeing new asset classes come up. And this is what we struggle with even as a global investment association. We are currently struggling with illiquid assets, or illiquid asset classes like art, for instance, like wines, like antique cars and coins and so on and so forth. So again, we are starting to move into a realm where, as a financial advisor, your knowledge base needs to improve again. So if you're talking about professional associations, FPM, FIMM, where do we draw the line? We draw the line in terms of what we know best, what are the financial products that we put into the space, and then we educate accordingly. But I think most important is the fact that we need to take a step back and look at it from the perspective that every investor needs to go back to basics. You need to understand where your sources of wealth are coming from, where your sources of wealth are being put to, and what are the assets that you actually have. So I think the only way that we can do this is to promote this concept. It's not just dollar cost averaging, but it's diversification. Diversification of one's asset base is probably the most critical, because you never know when asset classes actually move. I mean, we can come out and tell you, we have been doing this business for 10, 15 years, but trying to read a market, trying to get it right all the time is next to impossible, I can tell you that. So you have to diversify your asset base. You got to make sure, of course, your client's asset base, and you got to make sure that, when there's severe amounts of volatility, some assets go down, some assets go up. So they can actually sleep a lot better, in the evenings.
Unfortunately, Jeffrey, as they say, if only people learn from history, the richest people would be the librarians.
Yeah,
unfortunately. And someone told me this also, the four key damaging statements in our life. This time is going to be different. Every time you invest, we say that. So I think the timekeeper is already flashing me the minutes there. I would like to actually open up the floor to a couple of questions, but before that, maybe I can give each of my colleagues up here 1 or 2 minutes just to say, if we could do things different, I mean, if we wanted to change and probably be able to contribute to the effort of helping investors become more confident and make investment a better activity and a whole new world out there, what would be the one contribution that whether us as a company or ourselves, can I start with Paul?
Well, I think ultimately is first we have to continuing educate ourselves first. Like what Jeff mentioned, there are so many new things coming out that we ourselves have to understand. And then on top of that, we must be able to explain to the clients, right, to our investor in a very simple form. Because, I mean, like I've mentioned quite a lot on asset allocation. Why I stress so much is because ultimately that really decide or how well, or rather to say, in a very straight way, how easily an investor can retire if it's for his investment fund. Because practically, when we, on the managing side, we know very well what is strategic asset allocation, what is tactical asset allocation, when and how you should use it. Of course, investor do sometimes using it implicitly without knowing the meaning of it. But sometimes because of that, after a while, they derail very far from the initial objective. Because the most common thing, there's nothing wrong that you switch in and out on your funds or the type of funds you invest to preserve your capital or to take advantage of the market environment. But most of the time, it's after a few times of switching, they've forgotten what is the initial objective. Then it becomes, they're always trying to, after switching a few times, especially if the switching at the right time, the tendency is that investor will try to look in for a higher and higher return. Rather stick back to that initial investment objective. So I think the most important part is that we need to educate ourselves, and then at the same time, when we convey the message to the investor, we have to convey it in a very simple, easily understand way.
You want a 1 minute, right? Okay.
I've been asked to give you.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes the obvious choice is not so obvious, number one. Therefore, number two, invest in what you understand and understand what you invest in. And follow that together with actions, because action speaks louder than word. We have been talking and talking and talking. So follow it by actions, and action means communication, and engage and manage expectations. And when you follow it by action, just follow how Domino's Pizza actually deliver the action. Domino's Pizza said, delivered to your door in 30 minutes. That is the action. And if it's not delivered in 30 minutes, it's absolutely yours for free. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato'.
I think that I will try to put it in a systematic way in terms of what both Dato' and Paul had mentioned. If you're looking at a portfolio and let's say we're all responsible enough and we segregate the portfolio, we diversify it. One very quick way to do it is basically to put it, we're always taught to say that you've got to constantly communicate with your clients, as was mentioned before. Look at it in terms of a monitoring process. If you set a certain asset allocation for your clients, okay, you put them into some equity fund, some hedge fund, some fixed income fund, what have you, okay? It could be capital protected as well. On a regular basis, you monitor that and you rebalance. If, let's say, equity funds go through a major bull market as they've done, you would have seen that your equity rates go up from, let's say, you initially thought it was 25%, it's gone up to 30, 33%. Now, this portfolio now is exposed to more equity risk than it should have been when you had agreed with your client to do that. So what you do then is that you sell it down, you pare it down. Some portions may have gone down, you bring it up in terms of putting more money in there. This, of course, is the systematic way of ensuring that your client's portfolio remains diversified. Okay, and your client is also then able to understand that, yes, some of my assets have done well, it's time to bring it down, some have done poorly, it's time to bring it up. Because markets work in cycles, and they will never stop doing that.
Thanks, Reverend.
Okay, I will not touch on the portfolio diversification or asset allocation, but one thing that we miss out from the discussion just now, from my personal point of view, we always think that the responsibility of educating the investor is actually on the regulator, on the organization, on the industrial organization, but we actually miss out one point in the sense that we should relook into our current education system. Okay, we should get the Ministry of Education to introduce, some curriculum regarding investment, regarding savings, regarding retirement planning. Okay, I think we should teach our kids from young in terms of how to manage money, in terms of how to save, invest, and also think of their retirement plan. Okay, while educating them from young, right, it actually solves a lot of our problem right now. It actually solves a lot of the unit trust consultant, even the financial advisor, issues in terms of, I would say in terms of explaining to them what is investment. Yeah, this is from my personal point of view.
Okay. Today's education system, that's something we can all take into another platform. And I'm sure we can spend a whole day talking about it, because I agree with Chui Chui. We don't have that, but again, that's going to be a digression from this. But I think listening to my 4 colleagues here today, and short of the timekeeper waving his hand at me sooner than this, if you listen to all of them, I think you're going back to the 5 tenets that the President mentioned just now. It's about advice, letting people, giving people simple information. I think Dato said just now about delivering. I mean, that's at the end of the day, you need to walk the talk also. I mean, what are you going to do that? What are you going to be doing with your client? Jeffrey touched about the active management part of it, and that's activity under the 3rd A, and Chuchi's talking about education, which is also about engagement at the end of the day. So you don't run far from the 5 A's, and those are the 5 tenets we must have. I think importantly at the end of the day, renewing investors' confidence, think about it. You have to do unto others what you would do unto yourselves, right? So if you're not going to invest in that fund, if you're not going to ask them to buy, if you are not going to use your EPF funds to invest in that fund, don't ask someone else to do it. You see, that's, I think, the first step you need to make sure is carried out. I would like to tie up this presentation on that note. I would still like to give the opportunity to the audience, maybe 2 questions if I may, and then maybe we can wrap up for the session. Thank you to my colleagues here today. Can we have maybe 1 or 2 questions from the floor? It can be directed at anyone or all of us, but if you direct it at all of us, then we're going to take another half an hour. I don't think I want to be the one holding up lunch from any one of you.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen, from the floor? Yeah. Okay, maybe you like... Oh.
Yeah, I was hoping there was going to be more mics around, so...